to our very first official Ollie Gardens podcast. My name is Kimberly Carver. I am a retired English teacher, an avid gardener. I love to do garden to table cooking. You might have seen me on MasterChef Season 14 Generations with my good old friend Gordon Ramsay, where I made it to the top 10. Today, for our first official podcast, I'm inviting a very special guest. His name is Ty Hall. He is going to be talking to us today about soil and zones, and he comes from the prestigious company Kellogg Gardening. So Ty, you guys just celebrated a really big birthday recently, correct?
Yes, we did. We celebrated our centennial. We have been around since 1925, so we know a little bit about gardening.
I would think so, right? Well, today I wanted to, first off, tell us a little bit about what you do for Kellogg. What is your role there? And I know that you've supported me in getting a school garden going. So share a little bit about yourself.
I've been in the industry for 46 years. I have been with Kellogg Garden Products for 26 of those years. I started working for a mom and pop lawn and garden company actually in 1979. Been doing this just a little bit.
Okay, awesome.
So I am currently in charge of the Southern California sales group.
Okay.
I am also a key account manager for True Value, some of the irrigation houses, True Value, Site One, Ewing Irrigation, Horizon, of that ilk. And then several key account, what we call local retail, but nurseries in Southern California, Rogers Gardens, Plant Depot, the Anawalt chain, those type of things.
That's awesome. So that's a good segue. So a lot of people that might be watching this are new to gardening, and some are probably experts, but soil plays a super important part when it comes to starting a garden and maintaining a garden. What would you be giving advice for brand new gardeners about soil? What little tidbits can you share?
The first is the very important thing is to know your soil type. There are three basic soil types. There's clay soil, which your soil is like clay. It gets wet, it holds a lot of moisture. That also can be problematic because water stays in the soil a lot longer than it should. Sometimes certain plants will have what we call root rot. The water doesn't drain away properly, just packs around the soil. You have what we call sandy soil, and sandy soil basically is lacking in organic matter, and the water will just percolate through very quickly. So what normally happens is there's not enough moisture, the plant dries out too quickly, and then you don't get any sustained growth. Then you have what again is like a silt, which is almost perfect, but still needs organic matter to have the nutrients. So what I tell people, and this is what I tell most people, when you move into a new home or you're getting ready to plant a garden, water it heavily before you start planting. See where the water percolates through. Maybe the water's pooling in an area, so you know you'll have to do something as far as an amendment to break that up. I like having good organic matter because I want something that's going to hold the moisture. The moisture is key, and the root development, because you want the roots to be able to move through the soil. A healthy root system is also key to having a successful garden.
That makes a lot of sense. And I'm thinking, in my brain, because I do a lot of raised beds where I am. I like the raised beds because I can control my weeds better, but the beds are really thick, so I couldn't just go out and buy 30 bags of Kellogg soil to put in my bed. So as far as layering, how would that work in a raised bed?
Basically, if you have a bed that's high, and based on what you're putting in there, if you're doing vegetables or flowers, you can actually use, I guess for some lack of a better term, branches or something like that, so that you can actually raise your soil level, and then you can put in soil. I basically, in my raised beds, I have what I call composted debris. I put that at the bottom, and that could include some branches or some leaves like that, and then I layer up the soil to where I want. I also use a good organic soil, and that's something that I tell people. Not all soil is the same. You see various soils when you go to your local nursery or you go to your big box store. You look for something that has an OMRI certification. That's important for organic. If you're an organic gardener specifically, if you're going to be growing vegetables, I emphasize heavily using a good organic soil because you are what you eat.
Right, exactly.
So you want to make sure that that is good. You can find several things that are in the marketplace. If you're in an area where you have Kellogg Garden Products, again, I'm emphasizing the fact that we've been around 100 years and we've done this, that would be 100% guaranteed. The family is a family-owned company, and we stress the importance of making sure that what we put in the bag is sustainable and good for, we call it people and pet safe. So
I love
that's
that,
our,
especially
our
because I
little
have
mantra.
I've got two cats that are always getting in my garden beds, whether I like it or not, they're in there. And sometimes the chickens. I noticed when I first started gardening, I would sometimes honestly pick the cheaper soil, and I noticed it didn't retain moisture. It had a lot of big chunks in it. It just didn't have that nice soft feel that the soil has that you provide. So that's
And
awesome.
that's key because one of the things that you want to have is you don't want to have any debris in the bag. You don't want to have any big clumps because if there's clumpy, that means that the soil didn't fully compost, and then
Okay.
you don't want that in the bag. Usually, if you see something and it's real clumpy, you would automatically just stay away from it. You didn't know by that.
I because I grow such a big garden, I do a lot of things from seed. And
Mhm.
with those bigger soils that are clunky like that, it's hard for my seeds to come up too.
Correct. Yes, because that's the other thing, and it's if it's hard for your seedlings to break through, it's also hard for the roots to move through. So
Exactly.
that creates a
Okay.
situation in and of itself.
That's
So
awesome.
one of the
And the
things that I tell
soil and
people, if
soil
you're,
type, I didn't mean to cut you off.
go ahead,
Go.
go ahead.
I was thinking a lot of people, other people do a lot of in-ground gardening. So if they're doing in-ground, would you recommend that they put the soil on top of their field dirt, or do they rototill it in? How do you recommend that?
There are two different ways of doing it, and it depends on what you're doing. If you're planting a tree, basically want the hole twice as big as the root ball,
Okay.
and you would amend the backfill soil with an additional amendment, and then you would make sure that you make a layer around there. You want to make sure that it's compacted, so when you're filling the hole, you
Okay.
water so that it settles, and then you continue to fill the hole because the last thing you want to do is put it in a hole, water it, and then have everything sink down. Right.
Right.
So
Okay.
you can
Okay. Makes
control
sense.
that. And that's key because then you can have something that your roots, because you want to make sure your roots can branch out. That's one of the keys. And you also want the roots to go down because the deeper the roots go into the soil, it's easier to retain the water because it won't dry out as quickly because the roots will be seeking the moisture down below. If you water too frequently, the roots will stay near the surface. And then you're out there watering every day. And that's why I tell people
Interesting.
don't water every day. You can
Okay.
water twice a week deeply, and then the roots will go down towards the water.
Wow. Twice a week?
Yeah. Once the
Wow.
plants are established, you can
Okay.
do that twice a week. At the beginning, yes, you'll water frequently because you
Okay.
got little teeny roots and
Right.
you
The babies.
right.
Okay. Okay. And then how about like if someone's planting in a row in a garden, a bunch of vegetables, do they just put the
If you're
soil on
planting in a
top?
row,
Okay.
you can basically same thing. You can till the soil in or dig
Okay.
it, you can
Okay.
level it out, plant in your rows,
Okay.
have your furrows in between so you can water, and then there you can water, and the water can go in between the furrows, and then go up into
Okay.
the actual planting area.
Okay. Super good information. I'm all excited about getting stuff in, but before we do that, it's really important to know what zone you are in so you know when to start this garden. So
Right.
this is a question that a lot of my followers ask me is how do I know what zone I'm in, number one, and why is that important? So let me start the question. If you don't know what zone you're in, what is the best way to find out this information?
You can basically go to
Okay.
and you can punch it in. Like I said, you're in one of 13 zones. So it is important to find out what zone you have. And the zones are based on annual temperature and they're based on the average minimum temperature and the average high temperature. So I'm fortunate enough, I live in California, so my zone is number 9. The My average low temperature is 20 degrees, and my average high temperature based on could be 90. It's based on varying something. You get into the summertime and things like that. But you can basically plant year round. Now you're in Tennessee, and you have snow and
Yes.
ice,
And frost and
right?
craziness.
right?
I am a California girl. I lived there my entire life
Right.
and just transitioned to Tennessee. And it is a big learning curve not being able to grow all year long.
Right.
Sometimes I try to sneak it and push it. And that was a question I was going to ask you. Are there ways to kind of beat Mother Nature and get things in a little bit before your frost date? Or do you just recommend sticking with following that last frost date?
It depends on if you have a greenhouse.
Okay. And
That's
I
your
do.
option. Yes. So if you
Okay.
have a greenhouse, you have that availability to start things in the greenhouse, and then when
Okay.
the weather becomes more consistent, bring everything from the greenhouse and start putting it in the ground. If you
Okay.
don't have a greenhouse, you have room in your garage, you can even start in your garage.
Okay,
But
that's a
you
good
have
idea.
to wait until the frost is gone before you put tender seedlings into the ground, because the
Gotcha.
next frost comes, it'll just wipe everything out. So that is, again, the importance of knowing. And then that, again, as we were talking earlier, it keeps you from wasting plants. No one wants to plant the same plants unless there's something like an annual. Yes, you'll plant your tomatoes or your peppers or things like that in the spring, and you'll go through the harvest period. And you also see, I have the availability to do winter crops here. You don't have the availability to do winter crops.
Tried. Sad. They
Again,
wilted.
unless you have a greenhouse.
I'm not happy. I know. I really want a hoop house. Like, it's on my wish list. So if there's anyone out there that wants to donate a hoop house to my cause, I'm excited for that. But definitely, yeah. So that is true. I mean, because I'll post something on social media and somebody's like, "I'm still buried in snow. How are you planting?" And so that's super important to know your zone because some have longer grow seasons than others, which is important. We mentioned frost date. So why is that frost date important? The last frost when it comes to planting your garden in the spring.
The last frost is, again, to make sure that when you make that investment and start your garden, you don't get a surprise. I'll share with you, we had this 2 years ago, had some great weather in January, and people were anxious to start putting things in the ground. So I always wait until the last frost is over. My friends were out gardening. We're going to have an early spring. Okay, well, that early spring didn't happen. The middle of February, we had temperatures and they did drop into the 30s. So everything that they had put in the ground died.
Yeah, I think
So
they
they
call
had
that
to
like false
start all over
spring.
again.
Yeah, that false spring gets a lot of people every time, I tell you.
Yes.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
it
Okay,
is
so
it is horrible because if you make the investment and you get excited and you're making that monetary investment, you don't want that money to just be wasted. So that's how you avoid wasting.
it's hard to be patient because you just want to get your hands in the soil, you want to get things growing. It's so much fun to see something, especially that you start from seed to blossom into a beautiful harvest. I get that. Patience is not a virtue I always have, but but that's such good advice. Know your zone, know your last frost date. Make
Right.
sure you have really good soil. I'm going to ask a personal question. How did you get into gardening? Or what's one main reason you love to garden?
I mean, well, my grandmother, basically, I grew up, my grandparents had a farm, and I used to spend my summers with my grandparents sometimes, and I would actually do that. And my grandmother had a beautiful green thumb, and she was an excellent cook, which you can attest to. So a lot of the things that I had growing up, I mean, the peaches fresh from the tree, she would go and pick a tomato. And then, like I'm a city boy. So my mom would go to the store, tomato from the farm versus the tomato from the store, two completely different
No
animals,
comparison,
right?
right?
So that was how I actually, that was where I got my love for gardening. Now, when I went to school, I took pre-law and English. So I was thinking of either being an English teacher or going
Okay.
into law. And I actually, as God has a sense of humor. We have plans. God has a plan for us. It's completely different. I became a EMT. So
Wow.
I started working as an EMT until I experienced what we call burnout. So after 7 years, I was looking for something else to do. One of my friends, his father had a business and they sold redwood containers. So he said, if you
Okay.
ever get tired of that, you can come work for us. So we started basically I joined a little family business. We were doing about $300,000 a year. In about 5 years, we were doing $11 million a year. I
Wow.
would like to say it's because I came and joined the team, but
You were the magic touch.
I won't take all the credit for it. But I had a knack for moving things and looking for different things. So I improved the product mix. We were eventually purchased by Central Garden and Pet, which is one of the nation's largest lawn and garden distributors, and continued working for them. And then the Kellogg family approached me and asked me if I would join their to become a regional manager and help them with product development. So that was actually very cool. We purchased the Gardner and Bloom brand, which we sell here on the West Coast, and was instrumental, myself and Giselle Schonager, helping them launch that. And then I got promoted to management, and I still wear multiple hats, but
I
I've
love
been
that.
doing this
Well, I
for
know
40.
I'm always emailing you, asking you questions like because I planted my beds, like you said, I use like lawn debris and leaves, and I put the soil. But it's a new season, and my beds have sunk, so I
Right.
didn't know like what should I put on top. And you said I should use the organic raised bed plus, and then put some worm
Earthworm casting.
castings, hastings
Yeah.
castings. I never say that right. How do you say that word anyway?
Just earthworm castings.
Earthworm castings. Okay.
Some people say earthworm poop, but
Yeah,
castings
that's not
casting
gross.
sounds better.
Definitely, definitely. Well, that's awesome. Well, thank you for being a guest today on our first podcast. I'm sure we'll
Yes.
have you back, and as we get going and gardeners figure out their zone, look at their frost state, they go get their soil, get their ground prepared. Right now is just kind of the mathematical planning part. I would say the lesson planning before you
Right.
actually,
Right.
do your garden lesson. So it's really good to just not jump in and make sure, because like you said, it is an investment. And especially if you're first garden, you're buying plants from the nursery, they're very expensive right now.
Yes.
So that you don't want to waste your money. You want to make sure you do it successfully. And yeah, I mean, for the people watching today, I mean, if you're going to start a garden, whether it's a little pot on your patio or growing in buckets, a raised bed, whatever you're going to do, I'm sure it'll be a great experience. There's lots of failures and lots of successes in gardening, and I think that's part of the journey. So I think today, though, Ty, with your tips, we're off to a good start.
We will have fun because, like you said, gardening is fun. It's healthy. It's a good family adventure to do.
Yes.
I helped my niece. My niece hated vegetables, and I gave her her own little plot when she was about 6 years old, and let her experiment with different things. And now she's a vegan.
I mean, people ask me, what's your favorite thing to cook? And I'm like, well, anything from my garden, I mean,
Right.
I'm not vegetarian, but most of the things I make are vegetarian because I'm trying to be sustainable and eating
Right.
healthy and things that I grow. And there's just something amazing about taking a humble ingredient like a cauliflower and turning it into something beautiful that Gordon Ramsay loves.
Well, no,
We
no,
all,
and I saw your season, and yes, there are
yes,
cauliflower steaks that you can make and things like that. And
yes.
no, I grew up on Brussels sprouts. A lot of
I
people don't
love
like
us.
it. Yeah, so
It's all the way
I'm
you
weird.
cook them.
Yeah, exactly. I'm weird like that, so I love it.
Exactly. That's awesome. I know you mentioned Googling to find some information, but
Yes,
Kellogg, I believe, has, because I get all their emails, I follow all their socials, and I'm always liking all the tips. I believe that you guys have a downloadable something about zones. Am I wrong?
we do. We do. So
Okay.
you can go to the kellogggarden.com website, and you
Okay.
can read about our soils, you can read about our fertilizers, and then we do have gardening tips. So if that's something that you want to do, just go to kellogggarden.com. You can download information from there, and we do have a planting zone chart on there. If not, they have the USDA chart on Google, and that'll help you. All 50 states, it just gives you one nice little clump and lets you know exactly where you are.
I love that because with all that's available out there, it can get a little overwhelming. If I can go to a one-stop shop and find out what I need for my soil and my zone, I'm probably going to do that instead. Yes.
Yeah, I don't,
Awesome.
yeah, you can see it. I have a little chart here.
Nice. Okay, I'll make
Yeah.
sure to link that and share that with everybody. I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much, Ty, for joining me on the first
Thank you for
podcast.
having me.
I look forward to having you back. And don't forget, everybody watching, make sure you like this podcast, follow for more. We're going to be doing one a week. And make
Yep.
sure you go out there today and seed the
And we'll
day.
have other guests coming in periodically to talk about specialty type stuff. So it should be a fun ride.
Yes, very fun. Thank you, Ty.
You have a blessed day.
You too.
All right.